My husband and I, already, have been racking our brains trying to remember what we did before we sat down to do this. Let alone what we did and what happened at the beginning of the year. But as we take a well-earned break from the hilarity, which is Hillary and Bill's back kitchen, where Chelsea and her kids are... Oh, that's what we were doing. No one could guess Hillary's go at charades. Turned out to be that film, You've Got Mail. Oh, the irony. Our Tones and Chris have been away the last few Christmases, so we've played host to a few old mates. Last year it was Debbie and Chris. Them from Blondie, and it was at the year before. Oh, I can't remember. Oh, hang on, Eddie, love, who was here? Not last Christmas, the Christmas before. How are you? Cher. Yeah, she came on a big yacht. Moored the boat in Cowes, and arrived up the Medina in a small dinghy, all made up to look like a big swan. Your typical low-key affair for Cher, wasn't it? We didn't bother cooking. We didn't even make it home. We spent most of the time in the bargements. She loved it. It was nice. But whilst we're privileged to have friends in higher places than our Tones, we are spending some time to reflect on those who've had a rubbish time of the year this year. Like we gave a moment to think about those in the care homes, living in tents on our city streets, and those other poor unfortunate shunned by society, the Conservative government. Well, it must be hard, knowing this is your last Christmas at number 10. Though I'm not even certain some of them will be even back after the New Year's, isn't it? Oh, isn't he slimy? That clever little bloke. James Cleverly. Do I can't even say his name. Arrogant so-and-so. Anyway, no amount of ghosts could come back and haunt PM Rishi Sunak and turn him into a reformed character. As he climbed all those steps to get into his bed last night, to shake his tiny little shoulders and scare him into having feelings, like empathy and compassion. Though that evil witch of Fareham, Cruella Doberman. Oh, here, did you read that her parent actually called her Sue Ellen after that lush from Dallas? How funny is that? No, not even her can save Rishi's soul from an eternity on the back benches of the opposition. Now, an unheard of amount of PR is needed to gloss over the devastation of this government has had over the lives of its citizens. And I'm talking about the UK here, though that also applies to Israel. Think on, look sharp. We are lucky, though, to be living with our Tones and his husband Chris, who, between the both of them, have made us welcome and don't seem to be too bothered about us, leeching off them rent-free. So, the so-called cost of living crisis and the artificial and government-sponsored price hike of the energy bills hasn't affected them much, though, Though our Chris, do you know what? He is a bit tight with the heating. I have to say that, publicly. They're back on the island, the Isle of Wight, where, mine and our Eddie's home. We're gearing up for the next election, which will see the island split into two political constituencies. Our incumbent and mostly dormant MP, Bob Seeley, has recently been reanimated and is currently being reprogrammed. So when you pull that cord out of the back, he can come out with whatever hilarious campaigning slogans the Tories are going to come up with this time. It's been a year of people coming together, of activism, of community. The island is no better for being mostly reliant on its own water source, when the wastewater has just been pumped into our rivers and seas. We're actually more aware of that, us being an island, because we're surrounded in it. And, one of our ferries may have capitulated a bit into making the experience a bit better for NHS patients, but with the last service on both the Fastcat and Redjet to be around 10:30 in the new year, a night out in Portsmouth or Southampton's off the cards. Terrible. You only want to go out for a bit of a razz. Terrible. But I've banged on about this for ages. Loads of these bands, that they're getting on a bit, and as are their audiences. And I honestly don't know why they don't do matinees or early evening performances, and especially in warm-seated theatres too. Terrible. Now, Eddie and I have travelled a bit this year, reducing our carbonated footprint by using trains and holidaying in the UK. By train, we went to Prague, Paris and Zurich. Oh, bloody hell, isn't it pricey in Zurich? Terrible. £9 for a bag of chips. It was Eddie's first time in Paris. And, I've made a few films there in the 70s, so it was a bit like coming home for me, I'm sure I had a few knowing looks, from some of the older, more lascivious-looking Parisian men. So, I may have been recognised. So, anyway, we've saved our air miles because of that, and come at the behest of former President Bill Clinton and his family to spend the holidays with them. It'd just be a dull day for them, without us. So, both of their political histories are marred by controversy. So we're just doing them a bit of a favour, by keeping them distracted. So before I return to the warm, bosomy feel of Bill and Hillary Clinton's family Christmas, of our Eddie farting as he sleeps off his turkey dinner, and another game of pin the tail on Biden, it's not a cardboard cutout. We've actually got him here. We're chasing him round with a donkey's tail. I'll stop now, and I'll wish you all the best of the rest of your Christmas day, and hope that your new year is as wonderful as we know ours will be. Merry Christmas, loves.